Okay, Shalom Aleichem, Holy Chevra. It's so nice to see everybody, to be back after a break for Hanukkah. I hope, Mirza Hashem, everybody had an amazing Hanukkah with a lot of illumination and enjoyed the lights. 1 second, sorry guys. What am I trying to do here? Participants, mute all. There we go. And time with Mishpacha and with Chaverim. We had an amazing Zayis Chanukah Masiba last night here in the shul. Hope you all saw the pictures that we sent out and the videos that we sent out. It was mamish, totally amazing, and an amazing way to finish up with Chanukah. And so we're ready to get back at it, and we're very happy to see everybody. And we're now holding by chapter 4 in the book, Story of Our Lives, which is of course Rabbi Yaakov Klein's commentary, explanation of the story from Rabbi Nachman, the Lost Princess. And everybody should, first of all, remember to go and check out the Lost Princess initiative of Rabbi Klein and get on the WhatsApp groups. Go check out the YouTube and the SoundCloud and wherever you can find it, go check it out. And everybody should go check out the Breslov Thornhill YouTube channel and like and subscribe and do all those things. Okay. Why am I saying this? Why do I always want people to like and subscribe? Not because we gain something from having the likes and subscribes, but the more people that share, the more people that hear and pass along, and the more people that see other people involved, the more people can hear the amazing, inspirational Torah of Rabbi Nachman and all the other tzaddikim that we learn together. So with that, let's get going in chapter 4. Okay. Any other announcements or anything?
Nope. I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Should we get started and read this part of chapter 4? So chapter 4 is based on the passage of the story as follows. Her father was very pained. So just to reiterate where we're up to the part where the princess has returned to her room after her father has gotten upset with her and said, "May the no good one take you away." The king said, "May the no good one take you away." She goes back to her room, and in the morning she's gone, and we don't know nobody knows where she is. So the story continues. Her father was very pained, and he went here and there looking for her. The viceroy stood up, for he saw the king's pain. He requested a servant, a horse, and money for expenses, and he went to search for her. He searched for a very long time until he found her. And now we will tell of how he searched for her until he found her. So a number of very interesting things in these short couple of lines here. In this chapter, in these lines here, we're introduced to what's really the main character of the story, being the viceroy. So that's number one. We have to talk about the viceroy and who he is and what he represents and why is he even involved, right? We see that the king, it's not the king who goes and looks for her, although he does spend some time looking for her. We see that it says he was very pained and he went here and there looking for her, right? So it's not that the king doesn't get involved at all. He does spend some time looking for her, but then it's this viceroy character that steps up. Because he sees the pain of the king, right? He requests the servant, the horse, and money. We'll talk about what those things represent, or we speak about what those things represent. And he decides to go and look for her. And then maybe the most interesting part of all in this passage here is Rabbi Nachman tells us the end of the story. We're here more or less still in the beginning of the story, chapter 4 of, I don't know, is it 20 or 21 or something? However many chapters. And we're getting the end of the story that the viceroy finds her. He's going to find her. And here's the story of how he found her. So, that's not typically how books or movies or stories go. You don't tell the end of the story and then say, oh, here's what happened in the middle. So an interesting choice by Rabbi Nachman to do that. And of course, with intent and kavanah and deep reason behind why he did it that way.
Awesome. So let's tackle these things one by one. Chevra. Okay, this we're starting to really get into some of the deep aspects of the story and some of the things that are so geschmack about how they relate to us. Amen. And how we are really involved in this story and how this is the story of our lives. So Shmuley mentioned first of all that the story is not the king looking for his daughter. It's not a Kadosh Baruch Hu. If we understand the king is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's not a Kadosh Baruch Hu looking for his daughter. The main character of the story now becomes the viceroy. This is the Sheni Lamelech. And who is the viceroy? What does the viceroy represent in our lives in the story? So we have to remember that this story is not necessarily based on linear logic. There's a lot of things that interplay with each other. And as we said from the beginning, we are the viceroy and we're the princess. And the princess is the Shekhinah. And there's a lot of different things that work together on a very, very deep level to make this story what it is. But to start off, the viceroy is us. The viceroy is an aspect of us. It's not just us, it's an aspect of us. And Rabbi Yaakov Klein explains over here in his book that you see, what does it mean that the king didn't go look for her? It means that there's no outside force that is pulling someone into this story. The king is not commanding the viceroy. The king is not showing him where to go. The king is not pulling someone on this journey. Rather, the viceroy is having his own internal awakening, his own internal desire to find the princess. He's so bothered, personally and internally, that it's the viceroy himself who's going to find it, and he's waking up. So says Rabbi Yaakov Klein from all these different mashpim and sources that the viceroy really represents the essential part of our souls. It really represents our neshama, what some people call the pintaliyid, right? That point within us that is holy, that is complete ruchnius, that is a neshama. Rabbi Nachman uses a lot of people say also a chelek elikam imal. There's a place, a deep, the highest level of our soul, which is literally called a chelek elikam imal. What does that mean? It means it's a piece of Hashem. It's a piece of infinity. That's what the basis of our soul is, the highest level of our soul. Chelek elikam imal. Rabbi Nachman, of course, when he tells us in many different places that we always have to be looking to find our nekuda tova, that's referring also to our soul. Our innermost essential point, which is 100% good. So, what's happening with the viceroy? How does that relate to us? And why is it not the outside force that is pulling us into this search? Why is it not like that? So, if anyone has, I'm sure this applies to literally every person, and we often talk about different labels of a Baal Tshuva and a FFB, someone who was born from, someone who wasn't born from, but really every person, even if they were born into a very religious family, they don't just stay on one level. They don't just get born into a place where they're totally in tune with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, completely, and they just stay totally in tune with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That's not the way it works. Everybody in their life is going to have a time when they have an awakening of some type. When that aspect deep within inside us wakes up and realizes that I need to look for something. Something is not right with the world. Something is not the way it's supposed to be. Right? And so then we wake up and we start to search for something. We start to search for deeper meaning in the world, deeper meaning in our lives and our relationships. Right? This awakening is that point within us that is looking for truth. It's that neshama, it's that holy chelek elikama nekuda tova pintalayid inside us that is looking for something more, and it wakes up. And this, I think, binds us all together. It doesn't matter if you were born in Williamsburg, if you were born in Toronto, in Winnipeg, in Tosh, in Yerushalayim, in Me'esharim. It doesn't matter. Everyone is going to have some point in our lives where we feel a draw, where we wake up and we need something. We're looking for something extra. So this is, I think, the main point over here as to why it's the viceroy why the viceroy is looking, and why the viceroy on his own is going to see, as opposed to being drawn, pulled, commanded by the king, right?
So I think maybe another way to look at that is for somebody who went through. Let's talk about for a second for someone who was born from, but really it applies to anybody in any situation. Someone who went through the system, so to speak, and then felt betrayed by the system. Like the system said, may the no good one take you away, right? When that happens, when we then sort of distance ourselves, right? When the princess runs away, right? The system continues on, and it's still there, and it's still doing everything. It still has the same messages. It's still, putting out the same energy into the world. But the princess at that point no longer is interested in that message, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard for that, the very thing that drove you away to be the thing that brings you back doesn't work necessarily, right? Because because you felt you weren't good enough for that system anymore, for that construct, or you felt that's not for me, or you became numb to it, and then you continued numbing yourself out to it. People do all kinds of things to numb themselves to the messages of the world and stuff like that, until they hit that point where something has to awaken inside them.
Right.
It's not going to come from.
It's not going to come from that place.
So the viceroy is not the goof? I thought the viceroy would be the goof. The viceroy is not the goof.
The goof, no.
The viceroy is not the goof.
Is the
is the soul.
And the princess
is the soul of a
Well, the viceroy is the Pintel Yid, right? It's the Chelek Elokah.
I thought that was the princess.
It's also the princess. That's what we just said. Yeah.
Okay, so right. So, no, it's a good point. They're both aspects within ourselves. Right. The princess and the viceroy are both aspects within ourselves. So what's the difference between them? So the princess, the way I understand it, the princess is passionate, on fire, living, and Yiddishkeit and connection with Hashem.
Okay.
Revealed, open. It's tangible. Whereas the viceroy is that little spark inside that can never be put out. It's kind of like the motivator. It's the thing that motivates you. That's constantly, no matter how far down you are, you still want to. There's something inside you that wants to get back up, that wants to come close to Hashem again. Right. The Nekudas Tovos, when we've hit our rock bottom, right. That little thing that we find that's able to,
The Nekudas Tovos are
not. When the princess isn't there. When the princess isn't there,
right.
And there's no passion, and you've lost, you're stuck in the world. You're stuck in the regular world. You're stuck in the world of the six sons, right? It's the viceroy aspect of us that longs for the princess.
The part of that wakes up one morning and looks in the mirror and says, "Is this really what I was born for? Is this really what my life is all about? Like just." Right. Work, eat, sleep, repeat, whatever, like this is it? No, there's got to be something more. That thing that inside us that's telling us there's got to be something more, that's the viceroy.
That's the viceroy.
That's the viceroy. And when those two things meet, right, when the viceroy eventually finds the princess, that's what, on different levels, there's a marriage, there's a connection there. That's really the point of all of our existence.
So let's go on. Let's look at one other aspect of the viceroy, which teaches us something about how we are the viceroy also. Like this, the viceroy is called in Hebrew the Mishneh Lamelech. Mishneh Lamelech means the second in command to the king, right? So we see that also we have in the Torah. We're in the parshas we're Isaac in right now.
Yes.
Totally amazing. Hashkacha pratis siyata dishmaya. That Yosef Atzadik is also the Mishneh Lamelech. He's the second in command, and Yosef is the one who represents for us the idea of the tzaddik emes, the tzaddik Yisod Olam, right? And one of the aspects of the tzaddik is that he's called the tzaddik Yisod Olam. The Zohar HaKadosh calls the tzaddik Yisod Olam, and there's many reasons for this, but the Zohar Kodesh says that the tzaddik is the place where all shefa comes into the world through the tzaddik.
All
right?
influence.
All bounty,
flow, divine
influence
flow.
comes into the world through the tzaddik. So he's like the foundation of everything comes through the tzaddik that there is always in every generation. But it's called tzaddik Yesod Olam because also the tzaddik is connected to the midah of Yesod. In Kabbalah, we know in the lower existences of the Sirus, we have Chesed, Gevur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Yesod is the place that's right before Malchus. So you see that even in the way that the Kabbalistic Sirus are laid out, Yesod is the second to the Malchus, is the Mishneh L'Melech, right? This is what the Yesod is. So, why is that important? You see, if you remember, those 6 spheres are also the 6 sons. The spheres of emotion and action and everything that we do in the world. Those 6 sun spheres are the 6 days of the week, as opposed to Shabbos. It's the details, the quantitative aspects of life that can really, really, can really put us into living epesatog. And living like the same thing over and over again, like Shmuel's saying. We can get so stuck in just over and over again, the same thing, the physicality, the materialism, the day-to-day things of the world, right?
Even the mitzvahs, even our learning and our mitzvahs can
everything
that way.
But what do we have over here? Where do we see that Yesod is the final, is where that whole existence comes to its fullness. It's the final aspect of all the 6 sons. It's the pinnacle of the 6 sons, right? So one of the things we see through this, is that this powerful existence of Yesod, which is the pinnacle of the 6 sons, it has tremendous potential to do good. It has tremendous potential to funnel all of that into the princess, right? But it also has the biggest opportunity to go the other way. Because it's where everything comes together from the 6 sons, it can express the negative side of the 6 sons in a tremendous way, right? So that's why you have this. You have the problem of pagama bris, of immoral relations and znus and all this terrible stuff that's going on in the world these days, right? It's so powerful, and it's called the Taiva HaKlalis and the Ra HaKlalis, right? Because it encompasses everything, and it's very powerful. So on the one hand, the Viceroy is also the tzaddik, and it's the aspect of us that is the tzaddik, and we all have this aspect of tzaddik in us, and it also represents that part of us that can either be searching for the princess with every bit of energy we have and with every bit of all the resources that we have. But it also is that part of us that can mamish be like way, way, way off. Can take that power and put it into a very negative place, right? So this, and Yosef HaTzadik, we see, is the one in the Torah who's able to take this power and channel it. He's the only one in the Torah who's called, almost the only one in the Torah who's called Tzadik, because he's the one who can take this tremendous power and can do the right thing with it, transfer it to looking for the princess. So Rabbi Yaakov Klein says over here, I'll read a little bit of this part over here because it's so powerful. He's talking about how our life can get so busy and so repetitive and so epesatagish, right? That we lose our connection to the princess. So,
can I just say one point before you start reading, because I don't want to forget the point. You said Yosef HaTzadik is the only one who's called a tzaddik. The other one who's in Tanakh, at least, who's called a tzaddik is Mordechai HaTzadik. And of course, there are a lot of parallels in the story with the Purim story as well, right? We know that Mordechai HaTzadik, Shimon HaTzadik is not in Tanakh. That's later on, I believe. That's in it's in times of the Mishnah or Gemara. But Mordechai, of course, the queen in that story. So you have Mordechai HaTzadik, and then Malchus is represented by Esther HaMalka, whose name means hiddenness, right? Esther is hidden. She's sort of lost, and we know that the whole Purim story, right? Hashem's name is hidden, and there's a disconnection apparent there, right? There's a hiddenness of Hashem's revelation in the world. So I just wanted to.
And he's also the other person who's called the Mishneh Lamelech.
Right, that's right.
He's also called the second.
He's the Mishneh Lamelech.
He's also
he's the tzaddik,
yeah.
And he has this connection with Esther Hamalka, the hidden, lost princess. However you want to understand that.
So we become stagnant.
Yeah.
Right. We become mamish. We become six sons people. So he says over here that there's a famous word that says that there's a bas kol that comes out every day and says Shuvu banim shoivavim. Return, children, return. And it's always there. The question is, do we hear it? And when do we hear it? Right? So he says like this, listen to these beautiful words. The inner viceroy runs in circles, frantically gathering all holy forces, working on our behalf, and energetically waving the banner of hope in an effort to remind us that we can still turn things around and regain what we've lost. As we groggily wake to the truth and sincerity of his words, the Viceroy begins packing his bags for the long journey ahead. Our validation is all that is required. If we trust in its existence and allow it to guide the way, this tiny drop of untouched goodness will search for and eventually discover the lost princess of passion and wonder in Avodas Hashem. From its ever-glowing embers, a great fire of holiness will rise once more. What does this mean? This means that thing that we're going to hear, that desire that we're going to have to go and find something that we're missing, right? We're going to have this desire. It's going to wake up within us. All we have to do is trust it. We have to trust ourselves. That's the deepest expression of ourself. And we tend to be afraid of this. Oh, if I follow that, where's it going to take me? What are those people going to think of me? How is it am I going to accomplish the things that I need to accomplish? Am I going to have the approval of all these other people? Right? And that can shut down the Viceroy within us. Right? So what Yaakov Klein is saying over here, something very beautiful, is that we just have to trust it. We just have to validate it and allow ourselves to follow what we know that we feel on a very, very emistic level, truthful level within ourselves. Right? We just got to go with it. We just got to trust it. And we got to allow ourselves to follow it. Which I think is a very beautiful and important point for us all. We should be empowered and validated to be able to do it. Right? And not worry about what everyone else is going to say. Yeah? I think it's an awesome point. Mm-hmm. So, Emunah, for sure. So, like this. The next thing that Rabbi Klein brings in the book is like this. There's two more main points that we're going to face today. The first point is the three requests of the Viceroy, the three things that he requests, right? And let's open that up a little bit and discuss what those things mean. So the first thing.
But before we move to the three, just one more point on the Viceroy. You mentioned that one of the things Yaakov Klein mentions, one of the ways we refer to that Pintel Yid is the Nekuda Tova, the Nekudas Tovas, the good points that we find within ourselves. So I'm sure some of us are familiar, and I'm sure some of us are not familiar with Rabbi Nachman's. What he says is the most important lesson that he gives in Likutei Moharan. It's known as Teres Azamra. There's an entire section that's dedicated to finding the importance of finding the good points within ourselves and the good points within others. And just an important point is he says there outright that when somebody looks for the good points in another person, even a seemingly bad person or a person who's done bad things, it awakens in that person tshuva.
Yeah.
Hurhuri tshuva. So it's an important theme throughout our story, right? So somebody who finds, and within themselves also, right?
All the more so.
All the more so.
Yeah.
Someone who finds the good points within themselves, it's this idea of waking up that part of yourself that you know is pure good, that can't be sullied, right? So it goes with Rabbi Nachman's promise that he made to us in the beginning, that just going through this story, anyone who goes through this story is going to have Hirhurei Tshuva, and therefore it makes sense. The main character of the story is
because it's waking
is
up,
the Nekuda Tovos in us,
from us,
which is going to bring us to Tshuva,
awesome,
and closeness to Hashem.
Awesome. So that's fantastic. So he says, the story says that the viceroy requested from the king 3 things: that he should have a mishares, a servant, a sus, a horse, and money. Right? Money for the journey. So let's go through these things and see what we can learn from them, because we're on the journey and we want to be successful. So let's see what the 3 things that the viceroy needed are. So first of all is this aspect of the servant. So Rabbi Klein brings that the Breslov Mashpim explained that this refers to seichel, refers to intellectual capacity. There's another one of the famous commentaries from Breslov called the Rimze Maisios, which says it's the soul. Shmuley and I were talking about this. It's a little bit hard to understand how that could be the soul when really that's the viceroy. But I think if we can direct it in one way, one of the things that we have to ask for, and by the way, these 3 things the viceroy asks for us, these are the things we have to ask for. Meaning, when we daven, when we are in his Hisbodedus, these are the things that are important to us. The story is showing to us what the things that we need to ask for are. What are the important things that we need? One of the things we need is this aspect of seichel, this aspect of an intellectual ability to understand my derech, to understand my journey, and understand how it all fits together, and understand how different things happening in my life are all part of that journey. The ability to see what's happening and put it together in a way that I can be on the journey. I can see myself as the viceroy. I can see myself longing for the princess, to understand how it comes together. So meaning what? One of the things he says over here is that there's times when we have a drive, we're really excited to be looking for the princess, right? We still haven't found the princess, but we're really excited even about the journey, and we have emotional fulfillment, and it's great, right? Like we had this big Hanukkah Messiah last night, and we're all singing, and we're all saying Divrei Torah and together, and it's right. So that you have something that's pulling you on the journey, right? But what about when that's gone? What about the next day? What about the day after Yontif? What about the day after Shabbos? When that energy and that inspiration falls away, right? At that point, I need to have the seichel to be able to cling on to the seichelic aspects of Yiddishkeit, to be able to remember. One of the things that Rabbi Nachman tells us is that when we're falling, when we're in a low point, we have to hold on with everything we have to halacha, to Jewish practice, to know, have a seichelic connection as well as a heartsick connection, as well as an emotional, inspirational connection, right? And in general, a maturity of understanding to be able to see myself on this path and to not be pulled off on the wrong path. Like we talked about a number of times also, how we can find ourselves drawn in to so many other chachmas. Rabbi Nachman talks a lot about chachmas chitzonius, about outside wisdoms, negative type of wisdoms that can pull us in and really mess with our seichel and totally throw us off the derech. What derech? The derech of our life. The derech of finding the lost princess. So the seichel is something that we need. Anything to say on the seichel?
Yeah, I think you covered most of it, but to me, the way I understand what Rabbi Yaakov Klein is saying, I think he uses the words to have an intellectually sound relationship with the tenets of our faith will preserve one's appreciation for the framework of Avodas Hashem, even when he is emotionally exhausted.
Beautiful.
So yeah, understanding halacha and things like that. What I took from that was to have to be able to answer to oneself and possibly to others also, but primarily to oneself, why we believe in Hashem, why we believe in the Torah. To have that sort of if anyone's ever gone to the Discovery Seminar, from Isha Torah, where they bring proofs of God, logical proofs, those kind of things, where we know, even if we're not feeling it, we know that there's Hashem. We know this is real. We know that this is emes. And even though I don't feel it right now, I know that there's something, I know that it's real. I know that I'm not chasing a lie or chasing something I'm not gonna, that's not
it's important.
solid.
It's important. We really can find ourselves in ups and downs with inspiration. So to have that, it doesn't even have to be, like you're saying, the Discovery Seminar, and some people really need to go through a path of being able to like prove, like we would in a scientific experiment, empirical evidence of different aspects of Yiddishkeit. But there's even another aspect where you need intellect, and that is that I've gone through all of these issues. I've realized, without even going through the Discovery Seminar, I see such emes in Torah. I see such beauty, and I see the wisdom of the Chachamim and the Tzaddikim, and it's so powerful. And when the inspiration fades, I have to remember and have in my mind that I've figured out with my seichel also that this is something that is important to me, that this is the way my life should be. And then I have the two things. I have the inspiration sometimes, and I have the seichel other times. Both are important.
Yeah.
So the second thing is that he asked for is the horse, the sus. So what does the horse relate to? You want to say something about this, Shmuley?
Simply. So the horse is the human body, right? It's so he speaks. He says that it's important that we take care of ourselves, right? And it's not something that in most streams of Yiddishkeit and yeshiva and stuff, like, you're not going to hear too much importance placed on this. But Rav Kook speaks about it extensively about this, and you see Rabbi Nachman here also says it's important to take care of yourself. You can't just
right.
It's important for our avodas Hashem.
Yeah.
You can't serve Hashem with a broken vessel.
Yeah. So there's a few interesting aspects about this. First of all, this relationship between Rabbi Nachman and Rav Kook. Right. There's some crazy stuff said about this, but it's brought down. Rav Kook is quoted as saying to his own, I think I remember who he said it to, but someone asked him about Rabbi Nachman at one point, and Rav Kook said that Rabbi Nachman and me are one, are the same. This is what Rav Kook said. There's a lot of differences, and it's a little bit hard to understand, but you do see many, many strong similarities, and this here is one of them. If you go to any place where they're teaching, high-level Torah in the world, first of all, you won't see a lot of healthy food. I would say, I knew a nutritionist once who was a frum nutritionist, and she said that whenever you go to a Jewish event, that color of food is important. Like, this is a way to have good nutrition. You should have some green, you should have some red, you should have this. You go to a Jewish event and everything is brown.
except for the candy.
Yeah, right.
Lots of colorful candy.
Everything is brown except for the candy. Right? But you see, so Rav Kook goes crazy about the body and about the importance of health. And he goes to the extent to say that in fact, if you don't take care of your health, your physical health, and you don't make your body a good vessel, you actually will not be able to receive this level of ruchnius that you want to attain, the spirituality that you want, because you're going to have a broken vessel that cannot hold the spirituality that you need. And Yaakov brings down from the Mezritcher Magid, a small hole in the body makes a large hole in the soul. Right? So just a little funny personal point of discussion right now is that we're just finished Hanukkah like a few hours ago. And I don't know about you guys, but I ate a lot of brown stuff fried in oil. And it wasn't a healthy week. And what a good time. Like we always like to say, we have to take the words of Rabbi Nachman and make them l'maisa, make them practical. Don't just let them go in between the ears and then float away. Now's the time. Point of action for today. Let's all try to be healthier. I'm going to make a huge effort. Let's all see what we can do. Let's check back next week. Let's check back in a few weeks. Is our vessel being taken care of? Are we taking care of the vessel that's going to hold all this? That's going to connect us to the princess, right? Super important.
There's also a secondary point to taking care of the body, is that it's about being able to overcome taivas, right? all of our taivas are taivas of the body, right? For the most part, I don't think there's too many. I don't know if being a Baal of Avodah Zarah, those were spiritual taivas. We don't really understand what that means today. But most taivas are bodily taivas. So being able to rule over that and develop good habits and not be ruled by our physical drives is a big part of that, right?
That includes actually working out.
Yeah.
Yep. Working out.
Yeah. Working out is you're fighting laziness, right? You're fighting taivas achila. You're fighting
the other end too.
Listen, everybody knows, right? It doesn't take much.
Right.
If you spend a few days of your life behaving in a very healthy way, right away you feel like a different person, and you have more energy, and you're more awake, and you have more vitality, right? It's just obvious, right? When you have a healthy body and a healthy lifestyle, you are more effective and you can do things better, right? And we need the healthy body to be able to he points out over here, the journey of the Viceroy is long and arduous. It's going to be very, very difficult. And the last thing we need is our health pulling us down as we're already on a difficult journey, right? We gotta have a healthy body. So we got the servant, which is the seichel. Now we have the body, the horse, which is the body. The third thing is, and which is just it's pashut, is money. We need to have money. We need to have parnasa. We need to have sustenance in order to be able to make this journey happen. So we can think about this in a very simple way, and everybody just gets it, right? In order to do things that I need to do, in order to take care of my family, in order to do mitzvahs, in order to buy a nice silver menorah, costs a lot of money. To send my kids to a Jewish school costs a tremendous amount of money, right? In everything that I have to do, I need to have a, right? Like we learned in Torah Yud Ches in Likutei Moharan, I need a house. What's a house? A house is a place of security, a place where I can be comfortable, and from that place, I can serve Hashem. From that place, I can be a person of ruchnius. I can fight this battle. I can go on this journey. But I need, it's like if we were military, I need a headquarters. I need what I need. So I have a few ideas on this that I think are kind of important, because while it seems very pashut and very simple, there's a question that many people have asked me about this, which is, where's the line where I'm asking for something, money? I'm saying I need money to serve Hashem. Where's the line when the money that I want, the money that I desire, that I feel that I need, is what I need to serve Hashem? And when is it beyond that level? And what does that mean, beyond that level? Why do I want money? Why do I feel that I need more money? Everybody knows, there's no question, the Gemara tells us that someone who has 100 wants 200. Someone who has 10 million, right, wants much. I was once speaking to someone who was starting a business, and there was a couple of people who were starting this business from a very small level, and they weren't wealthy, and they were planning, they were like ecstatic. Can you imagine if we were able to make a couple $100,000 a year each from this business? If we got to that level, how amazing that would be. And then they had an investor who was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he looked at them and he said, the way you're doing things, you're not going to make any money. And they're like, what are you talking about? We could make a few $100,000 a year. And he's like, to him, it's nothing. To him, if he's not making tens of millions of dollars in this business deal, it's nothing to him. It's not even worth his time to look at. But what part of that is needed for Avodas Hashem? And what's the other reason I need it? So sometimes I think there's a beautiful story that I was remembering today that I heard many, many years ago. I've told over many times, and I think it was about the Gerer Rebbe in a previous generation. that once a wealthy businessman came from America to have an audience with the Ger Rebbe, right? And so he went, and of course he was a benefactor. He gave a lot of money to the chassidus, to everybody. So he was treated with tremendous respect. And he was ushered in straight, he didn't have to wait in line like other people to see the Rebbe. He had an appointment, and he was ushered in by the Gabayim and sat down in the Rebbe's chassidus room to have an audience with the Rebbe. And he's very happy. He has tremendous respect for the Rebbe. He's a good person, of course, and he's going to donate a lot of money to the Rebbe. So so he's speaking to the Rebbe, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. And the shamish comes in, the gabbai comes in, and says something to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, "Just 1 second, please. Bring him in." And this chassid comes in, dressed kind of, in sort of not the best clothing, a little bit ripped, comes in, and the Rebbe holds his hands and speaks to him very, very close, and spends like 5 minutes with this person, like a lot of time with him, while this wealthy benefactor is sitting there, right? So even though the wealthy benefactor is a good person, and he's a holy Jew, he starts to think to himself, like, what's happening here? I came here, I'm giving all this money, and in the middle of our meeting, the Rebbe says, "Okay, you hold on for a second," and talks to this poor, schlepper who came into the room. This doesn't make sense. So afterwards, the Rebbe could see that this is what he was thinking. And the Rebbe said to him, "I just have to tell you that this person who came in here is a very, very special holy person. And I had to give him that time. It was very, very important. And I apologize." And okay, like I said, he's a good person, so he doesn't get too upset. But he says, "Rebbe, please tell me, like, what's so special about this person? What's so special?" So he said, "I can't tell you what's so special, but if you want to see, go to this address tonight, right after sundown, and go and look in this window and you'll see." And so he goes to this window at that time of night, down the alleyways, right? And he sees one room in a basement. And there's this holy chassid there and his wife, 8 or 9 children in one room. And he sees that they're finishing their dinner, and the father gives a bencher to one of the children, the little children, to bench. And when he finishes benching, the father sits with him and learns some aleph beis, and then he puts him down to lie down in one of the corners of the room to go to sleep. And then the next child finishes, and he learns a little bit with him chumash, and he puts that child to lie down on the other corner of the room, until soon all the children are lying down sleeping in this one room that this 10-person family lives in. And this gvir was so moved by what he saw, he couldn't believe what he saw, that this family was so sweet and what they were doing, that he went back to the Rebbe afterwards. He said, "Rebbe, I want to fund this person. I want to give this person money. I want to give him money that he should have a place to live with bedrooms and everything that he needs." And the Rebbe said, "He won't take it." And the Rebbe was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, You could try, but he won't take it." So he arranges a meeting, and he goes to meet with this person. And the Gevir meets with him and says, "I just wanted to say I heard a little bit about you from the Rebbe, and I was very impressed with your avodah, and I'd like to help you financially." And the chassid is like me? It's like, "Yeah, I know you probably really need money. Like, I want to help you financially." And the chassid says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I have everything I need. I don't need anything. I don't need any money." That's the way that this one chassid lived. And he didn't feel like he was lacking a single thing, to the extent that someone couldn't even give him money. What do I need? So where are we? Somewhere there's some kind of idealistic nature of this holy chassid. And then there's, on the other side of the coin, there's someone who's a money-hungry powerful ego type of person, where do we fit in this spectrum? What are we asking Hashem for when we're asking for money? Right? Are we asking for money? Why do we want money? I mean, I was thinking that every reason that a person asks for money when it's not lishma, when it's not for the right reason, comes from ego. Right? Either I feel like I need to show that I'm something great. I need for other people to see that I'm something special. I need the approval of other people. Right? Or maybe I need to give my parents nachas that they need to feel like I've accomplished something serious. And they wouldn't have that same feeling if I just said, you know what, parents, I'm on my way to finding the princess. It wouldn't quite give them that. So I feel I need to give them that. Maybe I feel whatever the ego is, whatever I feel that I need to do.
Or lack of emunah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're worried that I might need it for this and I might need it for that, and the income that Hashem has given me, a roof and food every single day of my life so far, maybe that won't continue if I don't work 60 hours a week and exert myself and neglect my family and put all my strength into working and nothing else, because it can come from lack of emunah. Right.
So this is somewhere where I believe that everybody has to really think, has to really understand themselves and their situation and what they're doing. And from that place, ask Hashem, what do I need money for? So he says over here that the Viceroy asked for the money for expenses. For expenses.
That's the main
of his trip, right? What did he say over here?
For expenses.
Mois al hoitzais. I need money for the expenses of my trip. If you were on a business trip, right, and you want money for expenses, you can't go and buy yourself a new Mercedes and then, or whatever fancy cars are these days. You can't go and get the fanciest of everything, right? You have to show that this is a business expense. This is an expense for the journey that I'm on right now. So too, I'm on a journey. Part of asking Hashem for parnasa, for sustenance, for all this, is knowing what journey am I on. And now when I know what the journey that I'm on is, this is where the seichel can help us. When I know what journey I'm on, now I can understand what are the things that I need. Because some people think they absolutely need to have, the 3-car garage and the Tesla and the BMW and the Mercedes. And that's, I have 3 kids and they all need a car. And, I gotta get them a high-end car. The people think they really need that. They legitimately think they need that. Right? Maybe they do in some way. Who knows? I'm not judging. But I'm saying for us, we have to know what the journey is. And what do I need for that journey? And now I can ask for the money for the right things. You hear what I'm saying? It's complicated and it's different for different people. But this is one of the aspects of it that I think is very, very important.
I think it's another place where you have to plug in. We're coming out of Hanukkah, which we've spoken a lot about here at the shul over the course of Hanukkah and Shabbos and by the Mesiba. As Rabbi Nachman says, Hanukkah is Yemei Haida. We say in Al Nisim, it's a time of being thankful, and it's one of Rav Gisselsen's 3 H's is Haida. And I remember, a number of years ago, I was going through some difficulty, and I was given the advice. When you're doing hisbodedus, start off by, you want to ask. You decide you want to ask Hashem for something. There's something you're missing in your life. There's a lack in your life. So I was given the advice to start off your hisbodedus by listing things that you're thankful for, and I would do that, and I would just try to make lists and lists and lists. And I wasn't, you don't even have to limit it to right now. You can talk about things that happened when you were 6 years old that you're thankful for, but you can do right now also, like thank you for all the things I have. But really get specific about it. And by the time I would be done doing that, you don't feel like you're missing anything anymore. You don't think it's that expression of thanks, and Yaakov Klein spoke about it also, that it's how we keep things fresh, right? Like I said, I hope that everybody here who's listening has probably not gone a day in their life without a roof over their heads and food in their stomach, and at the end of the day, we're here. We all made it. You think about the lives of the rich, and I won't say famous. You think about the lives of the rich and the holy, let's say, and think about someone who's not living that lifestyle, and you think, let me compare myself to him. Like, is he much happier? Is he much different? It's just a different path. Hashem is a different path for him and a different path for you. You ultimately, for the most part, we're getting what we need, right? And it's not to take away from people who are going through difficulties, who think that who are struggling, who are lacking. But there are different ways, like Rav Gisselson said in the story. There are ways of framing that situation.
This is the perfect segue to the next point over here.
Yeah.
If we can segue like this, the next point is my favorite point of the day, of this year. We said the Viceroy is our soul, is the aspect of us that's looking for the princess. We need to have seichel, we need to have a healthy body, and we need to have sustenance and parnasa, money to do what we have to do. The next point that Yaakov Klein makes, which I have a lot to say about, I won't say too much, don't worry, is that Rabbi Nachman tells us, right at the beginning of the story, like most people don't do, that in the end, he finds the lost princess. So he tells us the end already. The story is successful, right? And now I'm going to tell you how he finds the lost princess. That's how it goes, right? What's pshat? Why does he do this? This is not normal storytelling, right? So Yaakov Klein brings something that I've heard from other people also, that you see in Ashrei, right? The prayer that we say Ashrei every day, 3 times, that it goes by the Aleph base. Ashrei Yoshvei Beisach, right? In order Aleph base. But David HaMelech left out the letter Nun. Why did he leave out the letter Nun? Because the letter Nun stands for Nefila, which means to fall. And he didn't want to put Nefila into the Ashrei, which is supposed to be like a praise of Hashem, right? However, a little bit later on, Mefarshim speak about this, by Samech,
immediately,
right?
After.
Right after Samech says Soimech Neuflim.
Right next to the ones who fall.
Right? He lifts up, supports those who fall. Soimech Hashem L'chol HaNeuflim. Right? So he did say he did talk about falling. What's the story? He says this is exactly what Rabbi Nachman is doing in this story. He says, you know what? We do have to talk about that we fall. And we do have to talk about the fact that the journey is going to be really hard. And we're going to see that the Viceroy spends years at a time in tough situations.
Failing.
He falls. And he fails. Over and over again. Right? But Rabbi Nachman tells us this story. David HaMelech tells us this in Ashrei by saying, you know what? It's okay to know that we're going to fall. But we have to, together with that, we have to know that it's not the end. We have to know that it's not the plan. And that fall is only happening because Hashem is Soimech L'chol HaNeuflim, is going to help us to get up. And that fall is part of our journey. And only when we know that it's part of our journey and that it's part of our ultimate success, then we can talk about falling. But if we're just dwelling on falling and failing and negativity all the time, we're going to be depressed. We're going to remain down, and we're not going to get back up. Right?
Our world doesn't allow people to fail.
Right.
That's part of the problem.
100%. Sandra's saying something very good. We're gonna speak about this in 1 second. Yeah. And you see, Rabbi Nachman talks about this all the time. This is a big aspect of chassidus and Kabbalah, is this concept of Yerida Tachlis Aliyah, Yerida Tzricha Aliyah. You must, and Rabbi Nachman says in the Lashon that you must go down first before you can rise up. You must go down first before you can rise up. It's part of the fabric of creation that we first have to go down to Mitzrayim before we can come out as Am Yisrael and have Kabbalah Satara. We have to first go down to Mitzrayim. And over again, we see this in Jewish history, right? But there's this beautiful way that I've been talking about with a few people that plugs right into here on such an amazing way. And it's the perspective. It's all about perspective. Do we have a Gullus perspective or do we have a Geula perspective? Do we have the perspective that we're in exile or do we have the perspective of Geula, of redemption, right? So how do you see this? There's a few different ways you can see it. So first of all, we saw just from this last week's parsha and the parshas that are happening right now that Yosef is in Mitzrayim, and his brothers sold him, and he was a servant, and then he was in prison, right? And he was in a very, very bad situation. So one way of saying it, one perspective is, oh my gosh, look where I was put and I'm stuck here. Look what happened to me and I'm stuck here, right? Yosef Atzadik didn't say that. He said, I was sent here. Not I'm stuck here. I was sent here, meaning there's a purpose. There's something that I'm supposed to do here. Am I stuck here or was I sent here? Another aspect of it is that you know, when you take something and you dig it and you slam it into the ground, right? The person could say, I feel like I'm buried. I feel like I'm buried right now.
When does Yosef
Are you buried? Or that the Gullus view is that I'm buried. The Geula view is that I'm planted. And I'm going to grow from this thing I'm experiencing. Do I have a victim mentality? Do I see myself that everything's am I blaming everyone else? Or instead of a victim, am I a student? Am I a fighter? Am I growing? Am I striving? Right? One thing that Sandra just said, very, very, very important, awesome one. A Gullus view is failure. I failed. Right? What's the Geula view of failed? Well, it's not that I failed and I'm stuck here forever. It's a learning experience. From that failure, I now know what happened there, and I'm going to come out the other side much, much higher. Like everyone always talks about, the people who became multi-bargillionaires from their businesses. How many failed businesses did they have in the first place before they got to that, right? And the last one, very important, Gedalia Fenster says this all the time, is my perspective that I'm in a bad situation. Why is this being done to me? Or why is it's being done for me? Am I here and I'm stuck and someone's punishing me and it's terrible and it's a failure and it's negative? Or am I planted here? Am I sent here? And do I have a purpose here? And is this happening for me to build me into something else? Right? This is the difference in view between, first of all, putting the nun in the first place and saying you're going to fall, and starting the story by being in a desperate situation without seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. David HaMelech and Ashrei and Rabbi Nachman is telling us that, hold on a second, you know what? You are going to be successful. You're going to make it through. You're going to be successful. It's for sure going to happen. Hashem is Soimech L'chol HaNoiflim. And you're going to find the princess, for sure. And now you're ready to start to face all of the challenges and all of the difficulties and the suffering, the what do they call it? The difficult things we have to work through. Challenges. I had a good word in my mind. It's gone. The steps that he has to go through to get to her. Now he's ready to face them. Now that I know I'm going to be successful, now I can go through these things. And it's something that I always like to say. It's one of the things that really, really meant a lot to me when I first started to learn the Torah of Rabbi Nachman. It was the first time that I ever heard someone say, yeah, you know what? There's going to be challenges. It's going to be hard. And you're going to get really low. But there's a reason for it. And from that place, you're going to get to the highest place you never expected you would get. Right? Rabbi Nachman's chassidus tells us and shows us how life is really going to be. And when we have this in our mind already, we're a little bit more prepared to start the journey. And this point in the story is the beginning of the journey. And it's Ki'ilu, Rabbi Nachman is telling us this. He's telling us, okay, you got to take care of your body, you got to use your seichel, and you got to have money. And you know what? You got to be prepared. You got to know that it's going to be hard. But every step is for your benefit. Every step is going to make you into something great. This is what Rabbi Nachman is telling us in the beginning.
I think there's another angle, another way you can interpret why the story is told in this way, where he gives away the end in the beginning. You know, normally the ending is the climax. It's the resolution of the whole conflict of everything that's happening, right? And it's the most important part, right? The most important part of every story is typically, and they lived happily ever after. So yes, they do live happily ever after. But I think Rabbi Nachman is telling us here that that's not the most important part. That's not the point of the journey. That's not the point of our lives, of creation. The most important part, the most precious part, is the search.
Yeah.
Is the journey itself? Is the fact, like if Hashem wanted, right? It says that all of our neshamas were taken from underneath Hashem's kisei hakavod, from underneath Hashem's throne. The neshamas could have stayed there. Right, Hashem could have created the souls, and they could have just stayed up there, or he could have just had malachim. But no, that's not what Hashem wanted. Hashem, you want to go back? I want to go back too.
Exactly, that's the story.
Perfect.
That's the story. We want to go back.
That's exactly it. We get thrown into this world, into this darkness, and from here we're able to say, "I want to come back." Yeah. That's what's more important than the fact that we're actually going to go back.
And we will succeed.
Yeah,
we will succeed. We will go back. But it's not the most important part.
Baderech siparti maisa.
It's
the journey.
Baderech.
Yeah, it became a cliche in the regular world, right? It's about the journey, not about the destination. Why did it become a thing? Why did it become a cliche? Because it's powerful and it rings true. It's emes.
Yeah, and we know there's a principle in halacha, but not just in halacha. When a person works and puts in effort and has yearning and has desire to do a mitzvah, right? If a person has all the intentions to do a mitzvah, but then at the last minute, for whatever reason, they're not able to, right? Does that mean they failed? They accomplished nothing, right? Or if a person spends, a month learning something, trying to learn through a particular concept in halacha, let's say, or whatever it is, and spends hours and hours, or maybe it's not a month, maybe it's years learning, and then you ask him, hey, do you remember anything? And he remembers nothing.
Was it all useless?
Was it useless? Not at all. Right? If you go to university and you remember nothing, that was a total waste of time. If you spent your time learning Torah, if you put in all your efforts to try to do a mitzvah, but you didn't get there, we know that the reward for that, the place where you end up, the destination that you get to, ultimately, is going to be the highest of high places. Right? Because you went on the journey. Oh, you didn't see the results right away. You didn't get this right. It doesn't matter. That's not Hashem doesn't necessarily require that. It's again, I'm trying to bring out this point that it's the journey and it's the desire that I think is more important to Hashem than the destination and the result, which will anyways be good, but it's not the ikr. It's
so,
not the most important part.
Well, what did we get today? Let's just wrap, and then we'll open for discussion if anybody has any comments or questions. We saw first the identity of the Viceroy, that it's that aspect of us, that aspect of our neshama that's deep down in there, the pintaliyid, the chelik elikamimal, the nekuda toiva, that is longing for the princess, and that takes us on this journey. And then we have to remember to trust that aspect of ourselves, to validate it, and to allow ourselves to go with that aspect of ourselves, which is the true aspect of ourselves, on this journey. We have to trust it and go on this journey. And that we need things on our journey. We need to have seichel. We need to have an intellectual and spiritual connection to our journey. We need to have a horse. We need to have a healthy body. We need to be able to physically be a vessel to take ourselves on this journey. And then we need parnasa, we need money. We need the things that we need to be able to serve Hashem properly. And then the last thing that we said that we have to remember is Shmuel's idea, super important, that it's a derech, it's a journey, and the journey is the focus, right? We know we're going to get there. Now let's talk about the journey, right? And lastly, the perspective of Geula versus Galus. That I know this is something that's going to build me. I know that there's a purpose in what I'm doing. I know that my failures and my challenges are there for my good, to build me, to make my connection, to help me to end up finding the princess. With all this in mind, with all this now in mind, we can begin the journey.
On the last point, the Geula point, he says it so nicely on the last page of every chapter. We have the lessons for life. It is only possible to discuss the pain of failure when it is enveloped by a spirit of hope and ultimate triumph.
Yeah, 100%.
We have to have that idea. We have to have that knowledge that we are going to get there and it's going to be great. And
so we have any questions or comments? Yeah, Sandra.
Okay, so I just speak for myself, but I have very limited halakha knowledge. So sometimes, and I don't believe intellect and wisdom are the same. So I think that there's points where Hashem will give me only a level of wisdom that I can take, and then there's parts where I just have to trust because I don't understand everything, and so I don't know why things are happening. They don't look good, but then I just have to trust that there's a higher purpose and it's going in the way it's meant to go. So I think for other people it might relate to that. And the second thing I wanted to say was the body.
Wait a minute. That's an important point. That's good.
Okay.
In other words, you're saying part of the intellect, part of the seichel, is to be able to say, even though I don't get everything that's happening right now, I have a bigger picture seichel, a bigger picture intellect, that I know that this path is important.
And God reveals it when it's meant to
And
come.
I'm gonna see it when I need to see
Like
it.
the simple son.
So that's a good point also, that God reveals it when it's going to come. So one of the points, I think it's in one of the footnotes, where Yaakov Klein says that the viceroy makes these requests, but it doesn't say anywhere that, and then they were granted, and then the king gave him these things, and then he went. It just says he made the requests, that he needed these things, and then he went. And we find out later on in the story that he does have all those things with him. No, he has those things. He has the horse, and he has the money, and he has the servant. But it doesn't say at this point in the story that they were granted to him. It just says that he asked for them, and then he went. Not that they were given at any point. Right. So even if we feel that we don't, we're asking Hashem for parnasa, for health, for these things, a person shouldn't think that they can't continue on their journey until they get them. Right. Ask for them, keep asking for them, work on what we have to do. So that's something we didn't really get to, but there's this balance of asking the king for these things, which is tefillah, which is asking for them, and then there's a part of it that's our hishtadlus, the part of it that we need to do in order to have healthy bodies, in order to have money, in order to work on. But there's definitely that balance. We have to ask for it. We have to actively do what's the right amount of ishtadlus, which is a whole different conversation, which you spoke about a little bit. But we still need to continue on our journey with or without them, if we see it or not.
So that is important, because in here it says that you embark on the Teshuvah journey without first working on matters related to the body, such as mannerisms, behavior, and habits. That's well beyond just physical. I work out a lot, but these things are very hard things to do. And so my vessel cannot accept the light until, like that converging point you talk about.
Yeah.
So physically I can be in the great, but my mannerisms, the way I speak,
right.
swearing, like we talk about this in the Good Land.
Yeah.
Those things have to happen
right.
actively on our part, and there are tests and there are the failures and all those things. So that vessel only gets
awesome point.
Light, right, as we can.
Sandra's saying that the horse, the body, is not only the physical body, not only physical health, but it's Yaakov Klein explained this also, that it's your whole existence,
how you conduct yourself
out of the realm of just spirituality and intellect. Where does your body get pulled? Right? Are you pulled to anger? Are you pulled to ego? Are you refined? How do you use your speech? Right? Your speech engages your physical body as well. Are you speaking like a holy person? In other words, there's a lot of aspects of preparing this vessel that Hashem gave me in order to be able to fulfill this journey. Right? Awesome. Anyone else have questions, comments? Yeah, who said that? Oh, Leia's here. Please, Leia.
Hi, thank you. I have a question. So I have not read all of the parts of the book that you guys have gone through yet, so maybe it's like a total oversight. But does Rabbi Nachman discuss the idea of losing the self and maybe kind of more focusing on like Maaseh Ha'ikar as well?
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Like more like where the focus would be focusing on helping, let's say, like a neighbor, or like turning the focus away from trying to fix all the midot within a person's self, which is like an endless process, So in some ways, like, of course, you have to speak kindly and you have to treat other people with respect, but is there such a concept in Rabbi Nachman's writing as losing yourself, so that you don't focus on yourself, so then you have energy to focus on the Maisa, basically?
Right. Yeah, so that's a great question, great point. I'll say it like this: for where we are in the story right now, we're still basically at the point where we've been kind of revealing the situation and the problem, and we've only just started. This is now only the very, very beginning of the journey, right? That was the first, like the 4 classes where we're holding now, and he hasn't spoken about these things in the story itself. Rabbi Nachman speaks a lot about this concept, and it's brought in many of his Torahs, this aspect of bittul, of sort of losing yourself, and many of his Torahs speak about the importance of things like mitzvahs that relate to other people, and how they are masakein you when you do them. In other words, one of the most recent ones we had was that someone who has a taivas mammon, has a very strong desire for money. The first tikkun for this, is that a person has to give tzedakah. And in Rabbi Nachman's derech, he relates it to Kabbalah and to deep things that happen when a person does this. But also at the same time, on the surface level, it's just this aspect of giving tzedakah to another person, taking the money and giving it to someone else, and realizing that the money doesn't belong to me. Hashem gave this to me, and he said, you know what, I'm going to give you this money, and you, on the condition that you're going to help the people that I send to you. Right? And he speaks about how this is a tikkun of this. He says it in many, many, many places. We have not addressed it yet, but it's going to come out certainly through a few parts of the rest of the book in different chapters also. So that means, Leah, that you have to join us now for the rest of the chapters to get the question answered. So you're stuck.
Okay, that was the answer I was waiting to hear that I haven't heard yet, so thank you.
No, you still have to listen to the rest. I'm just kidding.
No,
Hi, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Something's come up to me today in this class, which I feel kind of compelled to throw in here. And because is there not also a dimension of this which we haven't at least today talked about, which is accepting our lot in life? And so, it's one thing to say, keep going on in the journey, yes, but then we don't know, and part of the dukkha, of course, at the end of the day, is, we don't know what we have to accept. And how does that, factor all it in? As we said before, Baruch Hashem, I'm in a good place, and please God, everybody else here is. But I do know somebody who hasn't lived on the street. Okay, so there are people who are in bad places, and it's easier said than done. And so there's a function of, what is God's plan for me as well? And sometimes that's very hard to deal with.
Yeah. It's
and there's a story in the Malchus Kingship, by the way, for 30 seconds, in my favorite book, where, and forgive me, Rabbi, please correct me when I get it wrong, there's a fellow who goes to Malchus Kingship, and he says, I don't have it within me to be a tzaddik, to be everything, etc. Please give me something that I can do so that I can have olam haba and olam hazeh. And the story is that the Baal Shem Tov said, okay, fine, I'll give you this. Accept your lot in life. And so literally he said, in the book it says, the fellow says how hard it is actually possibly the hardest thing we can have.
Yeah.
And so I think, is that not a whole other conversation, and how does that factor into this as well?
Yeah, that's a really, really awesome point. There's really a lot to say about this. I don't know how much we want to go into it, but maybe 2 main things. First of all, we see that this concept of hoidah, which means thanking Hashem for what I have, really, it has a dual meaning. The shorish of this word means to thank, and it also means to just acknowledge, to admit, right? So Hoidah has two aspects. Sometimes it's thank you Hashem for what you're giving me, and sometimes it's just okay Hashem, I'm in a bad situation. I'm just acknowledging that you're giving this to me, and even though I don't get it, I'm just acknowledging. Okay, I don't get it. It hurts. It's difficult, but I admit it. When we can take that and turn it into hoidah of thankfulness, is when we go to that. We talk about these 3 levels of emunah that the Chavos Levavos originally said, and the Rav Arush says a lot. That the top level is having emunah that not only is this thing meant from Hashem and meant for me, but it's also meant for my good. It's also doing something good for me. And I think it's important to know that this is not an easy path. That's not something that we just wake up one day, and especially if we're experiencing a lot of challenges and a lot of suffering, and we just say, oh, okay, I get it now. Oh, thank you, Hashem. Right? Now everything's better. But I always like to say that living a life of hoidah, we're going to talk about this as we go through these 3 H's, whenever we get started, that living as a person of hoidah begins to develop me, begins to turn me into a person who sees the world in a different way, right? And then I can start to begin to be samech b'chelkai. I can begin to feel that I'm happy with what I have, right? But for in different situations, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, right? And if I could say one more thing, everything relates to these 3 H's that I keep talking about, of hiskashrus, hoidah, and hisbodedus, right? Why? Because first of all, we need the hiskashrus. We need this Torah of Rabbi Nachman. We need what he's giving us to be able to guide us, to help us on this journey. We first need that. And then we need to be people of hoidah in order to be able to see the world in this way. But how do we do it? We do it with hisbodedus. We do it with tefillah and with talking to Hashem. And if we do it on a regular basis, we can start to see the world in a different way. We can start to understand, and it can start to put us on this journey. That's how we get the guidance for the journey, right? And if we remember that it's a journey, that it's a derech, like Shmuley said, that the journey is what I'm on, then I can start to say, you know what? I don't have to be happy with my lot right now, but I have to be on the journey to being happy with my lot. And I have to start doing the things that I need to do right now to get to that. And these are the things that are going to help me. These are the eitzas and all the Torah and all the connection that's going to bring us to that place, is what I would say. I would say stay on the journey and listen to the advice, not of me, of Rabbi Nachman. Right?
People forget it's work.
Can I
Absolutely.
ask a question?
Yeah, who's that? Alyssa, yeah, please, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, if someone could be on a path and there could be a better path. And, so the question is, you say, wouldn't it be better to go to a better path than say, oh, I'm stuck with this lot in life, unless they enjoyed it or they're getting fulfillment from it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think...
Many paths to take.
I mean...
So how one decides to stay with their lot...
Yeah, I think it's just the recognition that they're not necessarily 2 paths, but one is the first part of the path, and then is the second part of the path, right? Like we spoke about, the parshas of the week with Yosef. Yosef HaTzadik, who we know is so holy and such a big individual. He was sitting rotting in jail for 12, 13 years, rotting in jail for something he didn't do. Not complaining about it either, right? He understood that he wasn't, like the rabbi said, he wasn't buried, he was planted. He was there for a purpose, and he was there for a tremendously important purpose, as becomes apparent at that time, right? So it's not, I don't think being happy with one's lot means being, complacent and just not striving for growth. Right. When we say be happy with your lot, it means know that, understand which parts of your life are in Hashem's hands, and which parts can be affected by your actions and thoughts and tefillas. Right?
I have a friend right now who's experiencing some difficulties in the in a lot of realms, but some of it's in the realm of Parnasa, and other very difficult things, mamish, very, very serious, hard things. And so one of the things I said to this person recently, which kind of plays into what we're talking about over here, is I really want this person to get out of the hole that they're in Parnasa. And I feel it on my own heart. I really, really want this person to not be in the situation. But not that they're not meant to be there right now, not that there's not things for them to learn, but I said to this person, I'm excited to see what the next chapter of the story is going to be. What's going to be the next chapter of the story, right? So if we remember from the beginning, the derech that Rabbi Nachman's talking about here, in the journey of the lost princess, there's not paths to choose from. This is my life. My life is the path. My life is the journey. And where am I going to be on this journey? Where am I going to go? I'm allowed to ask for money. I'm allowed to ask for security. I'm allowed to ask for health. I'm allowed to ask for everything that I need on this journey. So you're right. I shouldn't be okay with having nothing. I have to ask. Right? But I have to understand also that I'm on a journey, and that whatever's happening right now, there's a purpose to it. And then I'm going to get to the next part of my journey, and things are going to change. And then somewhere down the journey, someone's going to give me a bag of gold, maybe, like we're going to see in the story. Right? Maybe somewhere down the journey, I'm going to find myself in a palace. Maybe I'm going to find myself, in with everything that I need in different parts of my journey. Right? But I have to know that where I am right now, I'm planted. When I'm struggling, I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I'm not stuck. I'm not in a place where I'm not supposed to be.
So this is a very important idea, actually, that touches on one of the footnotes from last chapter that I was not happy that we missed out. I think it was maybe one of the most important parts of the whole chapter.
Here's the opportunity.
We ran out of time. In chapter 3, I think it's footnote 30. It's right at the end. Maybe it's not 30. He speaks about, when we talk about what Malchus, it is 30 on page 76. And he talks about what Malchus is, which is the princess, and what it means when that's lost. So one of the ways that he describes Malchus there is that Malchus, kingship, every person has this aspect of Malchus, of their kingdom in their own life, right? Whether it's their home, their business, their friends, their family, their people, that's kind of their kingdom, right? Shmuley has his little kingdom of Shmuley with his children and his situation, his lot in life, whatever it may be. Part of the reality of when Malchus is lost is when you feel, you know what, things would be so much better if I, had chosen a different path in university, or if I had married this other person, or if my children were more like this and not like that. Those are symptoms of a lost princess.
Also comparing.
When you think the things that I have in my life are not the right things for me, I need something else, that's the princess being lost. Right? You feel you're not the right ruler for this little kingdom that I have in my life. Finding the princess means connecting with that fire, that passion inside of you, to realize that Hashem is giving you actually exactly the people and the jobs and the house and the financial standing that you're supposed to have in life, and this is how you're supposed to rule that thing. This is how you're supposed to reign over that thing and connect with those things, right? The sign of a good king is not how lavish his palace is and how, the riches the comforts he was able to surround himself with. The sign of a good king is when the kingdom is thriving, right? And the job of the king is to figure out how to make that kingdom thrive.
We need a new king in our country right now.
Well,
also, from what you said, I really want to visit the Malchus of Shmuley. See what it's like over there. That sounds exciting.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's a problem. You should be very happy with your own.
I said visit. I want to visit.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome stuff. Any other questions, comments?
No, I was going to say, you made a point. The problem is people compare, and I think that is the biggest thing. We can't compare other people's journey at all.
This is added to the Gullah School list, by the way.
Right.
Comparing and jealousy,
Right.
as opposed to appreciation and gratitude.
You can't.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, everybody.
Okay.
Shkoyach for an
Next
awesome
week,
session.
chapter 5, Mr. Shem.
Oh, yeah.
Shkoyach.
Yeah. Everybody have an amazing week.